pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Vietnam Veterans News Podcast. News of interest about Vietnam veterans from a Vietnam veteran. Now, here's your host, Mac Payne.
All right, the recorder's on, if you don't mind. This is Mac Payne here with episode 18501 of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast. News about the Vietnam War and the brave veterans who served there, as told to you by yours truly, a Vietnam veteran. In the previous episode of this podcast, I talked about how they marked POW-MIA Remembrance Day up in Ipswich, Massachusetts. In this episode, I'm going to tell you how they celebrated that day down in Ocala, Florida. I do that because you cannot talk about this subject too much. We should never, ever forget our POWs and MIAs. They served our country and they were either imprisoned by an enemy or something happened to them and we don't know their status. It's bad enough to lose someone, as in the Vietnam War. It's terrible. The remains come home, you have a ceremony, they're buried in a cemetery, and at least you can go out and visit their remains. MIA families, they don't have that. Makes it even worse. To help remember the POWs and MIAs, I'm going to share a story with you that appeared in the Ocala Star Banner. That's Ocala, Florida, titled Solemn Ceremony to Remember POWs and MIAs. The story was submitted by Andy Fillmore for the Star Banner. I have another ulterior motive for sharing this story. I was almost born and raised in Ocala, Florida. My parents moved there when I was about 6 months old. I lived there until I went way off to college at the University of Florida in Gainesville, about 37 miles up the road from Ocala. For the entire 18 years I lived in Ocala, the population was stable, right at 10,000 people, give or take a few. Today, the population of Ocala and the immediate surrounding area is pushing 400,000 people. All these people came to Ocala and took my hometown away. All the places I remember are no longer there. The woods where I would go squirrel hunting many times is now a shopping center. The swamps where the Mills brothers and I used to explore on horseback are now a high-end country club, 18 holes of golf, a palatial clubhouse, security gates to keep out the riffraff. Way out in the woods, where we used to go, are now things like auto dealerships. It's all different. It's all changed. That's why I don't care to go back to Ocala. I haven't been back there for a long time because some people came in and stole my hometown. Despite those feelings, I'm going to share this story in the Ocala Star Banner, which, by the way, is the newspaper that I looked at ever since I can remember looking at newspapers at an early age. It's still there. I would have figured the Ocala Star Banner would have been bought out by the New York Times or something and changed to something else, but it's still there. Enough about my personal feelings on the status of Ocala, Florida. What is more important is to tell you about how people are honoring our POWs and MIAs on POW-MIA Appreciation Day. The story Andy Fillmore wrote is quite good in that it tells what the local people did there in Ocala and background on the law itself that established that day. Without any further ado, Let's take a look at Andy Fillmore's story titled Solemn Ceremony to Remember POWs and MIAs that appeared in the Ocala Star banner. Dateline, Ocala, Florida. A ceremony was held Saturday at the Ocala-Marion County Veterans Memorial Park to mark National POW-MIA Recognition Day. The ceremony honored the service and sacrifice prisoners of war who have returned and the thousands still missing. A centerpiece of the ceremony was a symbolic missing man table set with various items that represent the service and sacrifice of prisoners of war. Featured speaker Dorothy Anatoli spoke of her uncle, Army Sergeant Peter Patet, who was listed as missing in action on November the 26th, 1950, during the Korean War. Anatoli said soldiers who were taken as prisoners of war encountered conditions more horrific than anything their young minds could imagine, including exposure to below freezing temperatures. Antonelli, a member of several POW-related groups and the 2nd Infantry Division Association, her uncle's division, said she made it her mission to get information on her family member in 1994 and has pursued information about Patet ever since. Antonelli said Patet's remains have never been returned. Antonelli also spoke of 600 American soldiers who died during the World War II Bataan Death March, and how John McCain refused early release as a POW during the Vietnam War. Master of Ceremonies Ray Orlowski told the assembly that American soldiers are missing in 46 countries. The actual National POW-MIA Recognition Day was Friday, September the 19th, and was marked by ceremonies at the Pentagon, state capitals, military installations, and veterans facilities, according to the Department of Defense POW-MIA Accounting Agency website, which is DPAA Military. More than 81,900 Americans remain missing from World War II, the Korean War, the Cold War, and the Vietnam War, according to the website. The website indicates the national observance set for the third Friday each September was initiated by President Jimmy Carter in 1979, and every year since 1999 a poster has been made to commemorate the day. This year's poster reads, "Relentless Pursuit, a Determined Nation." The mission of the Defense POW-MIA Accounting Agency is to provide the fullest possible accounting for our missing personnel to their families and the nation, the website states. When American personnel remain captive, missing, or otherwise unaccounted for at the conclusion of hostilities, the DoD accounting community becomes the responsible agent for determining the fate of the missing and, where possible, recovering them alive or recovering and identifying the remains of the dead, according to the website. The Marine Corps League presented colors at the ceremony Saturday, and Marine Corporal, Vietnam War veteran, and Purple Heart recipient Louis Alston offered an invocation and led the group in the Pledge of Allegiance. Randy Zoller sang the national anthem. Rosemary Werner narrated the setting of the missing man table, and Judy Rainey read the poem, The Empty Chair. Cookie Burke, Vietnam War-era veteran, said while she was serving in 1970 at Clark Air Force Base, she encountered 3 POWs, and it was a defining moment in the military for her. Fred Tompkins and 4 fellow members of the Rolling Thunder from Citrus County attended the ceremony. John Earl provided a bagpipe rendition of Amazing Grace, and Ken Carsoni sounded taps. County Commission Chairwoman Kathy Bryant asked the attendees to keep our nation's heroes who haven't made it home in their hearts and prayers. She was accompanied by family members, including her nephew, Justin Nowlin, 17, who plans to enter the U.S. Marine Corps. He reports to Parris Island in June. Justin was surrounded by his uncle, Michael Nowlin, and his sons, Justin's cousin, Colton, 7, and Cooper, 15. Wonder if they're going to become Marines too, like their father. County Commissioner David Moore, a minister with Grand View Baptist Church on Baseline Road, closed the ceremony with a prayer. Jesus Christ and the American soldier died for our freedom. Soldiers died for our physical freedom, and Jesus died for our spiritual freedom, he said in part. What an appropriate way to end this story. David Moore is exactly right. American soldiers died for our freedom in this country, in this world. Jesus Christ died for our freedom in eternity. That was a good way to end it. Now you know how the good people up in Ocala, Florida celebrated POW-MIA Remembrance Day. I shared this information with you just to give you some ideas about how people do it. It's a good thing, and I encourage everybody to keep doing it because we should never, ever forget about those who served and ended up on the POW-MIA list. Maintained by the Department of Defense POW and MIA Accounting Agency. Again, we should never, ever forget about these MIAs and never cease trying to account for them. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. This is Mac Payne closing out episode 1851 of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast. Thank you so much for coming to listen to these presentations. You are cordially invited to return again soon and often to listen to more that will be coming your way on this podcast, the Vietnam Veteran News.
How about that? Ain't that a mess?